Gary, Derek, I need to grow my agency. I need to at least get new clients to survive. I want to make it through the next 6 to 12 to 18 months so that I can come out thriving. I need to make this income to support my family. What you need to do when everybody's cutting back on their marketing is exactly the time where you need to be doubling, tripling down on your marketing. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the 8-Figure Agency Show, where a successful entrepreneur and a soon-to-be successful entrepreneur help you build an 8-figure agency by documenting our successes and our failures. And man, it feels good to say that. I haven't said that in like a few weeks. We have been so swamped. This is the first time we're filming in like 2 or 3 weeks now, right, Gary?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to go through today's topic of how to survive, and not really just survive, but how to thrive through a recession. And the first two are pretty self-explanatory, but the last point I think is groundbreaking, and I know you've had a lot of success with that, so I'm looking forward to diving into that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say success just yet. I would say more so hard lessons, because I've lost, I'll just start the episode off with a banger. We have lost over $20,000 in MRR in the last 2-3 months in Q1 here. And for an agency that only is between the sizes of 25 to 50K, losing 20K in MRR is a pretty big hit to the bottom line. It's a pretty big hit, period. We had to lay off a lot of people. Like it was a massive thing. Great learning experience. Then I'll share a little bit about that later. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to get really tactical. We want to give you 3 solid tips on what you can do to grow your marketing agency, and not just grow, but also survive, because a part of it is survival, so you can keep playing the game through a recession. So let's go ahead and dive into the first point, Gary.
Yeah, so the first thing you're going to want to do is think about marketing your business from a blue ocean perspective. And what that means is, blue ocean means that just basically you have as much space in front of you as you can humanly possibly imagine, and it doesn't really feel like you're competing. And you do this through a couple different things. Number one is how you market, but then also how you offer what you offer. So as an example for us, we try to avoid being called a marketing company, and we try to position ourselves as growth partners, which you might say, well, those are kind of the same thing. But to us, they're really different because we're taking a much more consultative approach, and we're also helping with things that traditionally a marketing company wouldn't help with, like helping with phone coaching and helping with scheduling coaching and helping with lead nurturing. We actually take some of our clients' calls and emails and things like that to help get the patients in. So thinking about your position in the market and how is all your competitors positioning themselves, and then pivoting by 10, 15 degrees. So that way there's nobody, you're not really competing. You are putting yourself in a position where this is what we're looking for, and these are the only people that can answer that.
Yeah, that is tremendously valuable, because actually that's what I learned the hard way in my company now. And as I said, losing 20K MRR, we sounded and looked like every other agency and every other person in the space. And so when people were making decisions on whether or not they should purchase from us, it was never a value-based decision. It was always based on, well, Johnny down the street said he'd do it for 1,000. And even I could be there all day and say, Johnny down the street's never done this. We have the best experience. We were the first in the game, and we're still working with the biggest podcasts in the world. That's usually not enough to justify the extra money spent, even despite having that high quality clientele, right? It's funny because I think recently I have read $100 million offers by Alex Hormozi, twice in a row. I've literally, like in a week, I read it twice in a row, studied it, and then practiced building multiple offers from that book, like just step by step. Gary, have you read that book before?
I've read bits and pieces of it. I haven't read the whole thing all pulled together.
It is a game-changing book. It really is. It really is. I think you would recognize a lot of it, and you'd probably read it and be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And because you probably already do it. Like you understand it, and through your experience, you've probably learned most of it and have applied it to SMC. But it's game-changing. And the fundamental principle is you just make an offer to people that makes them feel stupid to say no to.
Yep.
But like the qualifier is, and this is where people get it, where they struggle. It's easy to make something that people feel stupid to say no to, but it's really hard to make something like that you can actually deliver on, because your reputation is on the line. If you can't deliver on your promise, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Right? That is a major problem.
It is. And you have to be able to deliver on the promise. But first things first is like figure out how to position yourself. So then work backwards from there of, okay, how do we get our product to actually align with that? And that, do you want to kind of jump into the next point, or do you think it's too soon to pull?
Yeah, but before we do that, right, I want to kind of dive into tactically the marketing and sales, right? So let's assume we have somebody here who, wherever they are in their agency journey, they need to know, like, Gary, Derek, I need to grow my agency. I need to at least get new clients to survive. I want to make it through the next 6 to 12 to 18 months so that I can come out thriving. I need to make this income to support my family. What you need to do and Gary, you've taught me this. I've actually made content on this on LinkedIn and Twitter, but when everybody's cutting back on their marketing is exactly the time where you need to be doubling, tripling down on your marketing. But what does that actually mean? Does that mean you need to necessarily spend more money on paid ads? Maybe. But what that means is any and all marketing efforts. That includes cold email. That includes cold DMs on Instagram and LinkedIn and on Twitter. That includes organic content creation, right? And messaging people through content you create and getting inbound leads as well. That includes creating paid creative online. That includes fostering a community of email newsletters, building a waiting list for people for your product. Gary, what else am I missing? What are some other groundbreaking marketing tactics?
I'll give you an example. So like we did an event last year, the end of last year, our first event. We were just running the numbers. We ended up with about $64,000 at MRR signed up from that. And then about 6 clients, 20 something locations. But then the clients that came, existing clients that came, it reduced our churn rate with those existing clients. So if you take our churn rate as a company and then take the people who came to our event, it reduced the churn. So as an example of doubling down would be, let's do more of those events. So now we have 4 events over the next 12 months that we're doing, because it's like, okay, let's keep hammering that home. The other thing is like, and I talk about this all the time, I don't know why more people don't do it, is partnering with the right people. If you can partner with somebody you are the next logical step after they hire them, you are the next problem to be solved, you are going to be able to partner with them really well. So let me give you an example. In the dental industry, a lot of people hire dental consultants. There's a lot of them, and they help with the business side of building structure and getting SOPs in place and culture in place and all these different things, right? Which is all great. But then once you have all that in place, then what's your next logical step? We need more new patients. And the consultant can't bring very much more value until the new patients actually come to that practice. So that's where we step in and say, hey, we'll partner with you. We'll make sure that they get the new patients, make sure you look good. And then now you have a lead source that's sending you customers, and you can become that for other people as well. So it's a two-way street. But that's worked really well for us. That's gotten us to the point we're at now.
Referral partnerships, they're huge. I mean, some people listening to this might be a lot earlier on in their journey. And the advice I would have for you listening is, this is what I did, right? Obviously, Gary's a lot further along in the journey. And it's not that it's not possible to do a referral partnership. It totally is. In fact, you can. You can do it at basically any stage. You just have to lead with value. Is that right, Gary? You go to the person, say, hey, you need these people. I can help you look good. Here's how we can work together. And everybody wins. It's a win-win situation.
And then you can say, give me one client and I'll do it for next to nothing for them, or I'll do it at a discount. Actually, our biggest opportunity that we have right now, Derek, that's worth more. The one opportunity is worth more than the whole company. It could literally produce more business than the whole company. We're just running a pilot. We're like, hey, we'll pay for the pilot. And if it works, then we will get the benefit of that relationship. And then they know for sure, okay, they're going to do a good job. So partnerships, you can do it anytime, and you can also do it at low risk for the other person, so they kind of feel dumb for not working with you.
Love it. In addition to that, cold email, cold messaging. If you know you need to grow your agency, it still works. I grew my companies, not just the one company, off of cold messaging. It works. Send as many messages as you can every day, be consistent, and it will massively help. And that leads us to our next point here, Gary, which I'd love for you to riff on here.
Yeah, so the next is retaining clients. So actually keeping your clients. And a lot of this has to do with value, and then actually bringing what the clients actually want and meeting their expectations. So there's a couple of things that we've implemented, Derek, that any agency can implement, and it's been really amazing. So the first thing is we've started using Wingman on all of our calls. So it's on every single call that we have. And Wingman is basically an AI recording platform, kind of like Zoom records calls. The difference is you can search all the calls by keyword. So we can go in and see each time that the client said, I'm not happy, or I don't like this, or change this. And we can see every call. We can also go through and it grades automatically of how the person did in responding, how much long they were talking, or if they weren't talking enough, if they were assertive or passive, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then from there, even more impressive is that we can create playbooks. So we have all of our playbooks on how to handle all of these different calls. And then it grades against those playbooks. Did they follow the scripting? Did they follow through with the questions? Did they actually get their real goal? Did they schedule the next meeting? and it puts that all in there. And then beyond that, we can look at how everybody's doing in the company stacked against each other. So you can have the salespeople stacked against each other, the other account managers stacked against each other. And then you create what's called battle cards inside of there. And in those battle cards is anytime there's let's say a situation comes up. Let's pretend you're an account manager, Derek, and a question comes up from a client that we've never heard before. It's literally the first time we've ever been asked, first time you've ever been asked. And you're like, man, you know what? Let me get back to you on that. I'll find out. Or let's say you give a really good answer. And we go, wow, that was really good, Derek. We've never heard that question before. We can save your battle card and then train everybody else based on your response. So you have all these playing cards that you can do. And what it's doing is it's giving us just way more control at scale. Because when you have hundreds of calls every week, right? We have so many clients. How do you actually manage all the calls and ensure that everybody's saying and doing what they're supposed to say at the right time? And how do we keep learning and getting better? This has answered all those questions for us.
That's crazy. That's a whole other episode. Just how do you manage clients at scale because right now as the founder, you're typically in every single meeting, every single session, every single client touch point. It's usually the founder, and it's crazy rough. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir, but like the amount of energy it takes to constantly focus on the client communication, it's a really daunting thing. And I think real quick is just the side notes of extra value. Gary, you talked about this in a previous episode. The way you explained it was, you have your systems now, right? And you're as the owner, you're probably involved in the client work. But what you can do is for the next client, hire a client success manager and put a little mini unit of a team together and let them manage that one client and then guide and manage that team who's managing the client. Then every other client from there, if that's successful, once you nail that, do the same thing. And now you are no longer the bottleneck in client communication and you have a team managing it. As for the people you're currently working with, you can eventually transition them to the other team once the team knows what they're doing. But that way you don't hurt the other people and you can kind of grandfather them in. Did I explain that correctly?
Yeah, I think so. I think you're kind of like a pod and work people in and working together and kind of slowly back yourself away. That is definitely something that works well. Not everybody's going to like it. That doesn't mean that everybody's going to agree that you should leave or that, we want Derek back or whatever. But that is part of the process of backing out of accounts is a hard thing to do.
Don't you have a story where you put up, you risk, I think it was like $1 million in MRR because they wanted you to be the account manager? What was that about?
That was super hard. Yeah. So I had a client who reached out to us and I tried to back away from the account, basically just did the strategy that you just said where I had somebody else managing it and I put another person in there. It was the director of client success plus this account manager. And they were just like, hey, we want Gary. And if we don't get Gary, then we're going to leave. And I had a choice to make. And it was really hard because, I didn't want to lose them as a client. I really liked working with them. There was a lot of money. But that wasn't, I could show up and save it, right? But then the team would have never learned from it. And so we ended up losing it as a client. But yeah, that actual story went viral on TikTok. People were pretty upset that I would step over $1 million worth of business a year, $1 million in ARR to, not to manage an account. And it's not because I don't want to do the work, right? I've already done all the work. I'm happy to do the work. It's how do you build a team that can actually do it? And, that's harder. It's much, much harder. Building a team is really, really difficult.
It's a really tough decision, but I think you made the right choice in the end because it brought you here. But hey, regarding the retention, right? Like oftentimes a lot of people listen to this because they listen, because how do you survive? If you have clients, don't lose sight of the ability to keep them longer. If you do one thing and one thing only, and even if you got no new clients, but you just kept the ones you have now, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 clients, that is going to further guarantee, right, your success and your survival through the recession.
It also means that you got better as a product, right? Because if you used to keep people, for a year and now you figure out how to keep them for 2 years, that means your product's much better. And that means all the new sales that you're going to get from your new marketing strategy is going to actually provide a lot more results.
Funnily enough, and that really leads into point number 3, right? So Gary, it's great. You're retaining clients, but nobody's staying with me. I'm trying my best and nobody's staying. There's a big reason that you've opened my eyes to since we've started this show that I'm actually paying the price for at the moment. So like I said, I've lost $20,000 in monthly recurring revenue in the last quarter, in the first quarter. So that's like over 5K. It's like 6K a month, 7K a month, just gone every single month. That's team members lost, like high team member churn, high client churn. It has been insane. But what I will say is actually, and this is funny enough because we followed this rule here, which is number 3, is getting closer to the money. So what we've actually done in my company, Mirror Media, is we said, okay, clearly the people leaving us at the moment aren't the perfect fit for us. Who are the people that actually stay with us? Like, we have clients with us for 7, 8, 9 months through all of this. And we looked at who exactly they are, what niches and kind of shows they are, and exactly who we best serve. We niched down. We got rid of all of our offers except one package, one offer for one person. We started pitching that only offer, and so far, nobody has said no. I kid you not. I've been on like 4 salesmen. They've all signed on. Not a single person has said no. So it kind of started working together. So despite losing 20,000 MRR, we had our highest gross month in February after losing the clients, which is crazy. So we lost the clients, but still had our highest gross month. And that's because we got closer to the money and we niched down on our offer. We got really clear on who we're serving. Talk to us about getting closer to the money.
Yeah, let's define what getting closer to the money actually means. Okay. So in the marketing world, think of a funnel, right? So think of your business like a funnel. So you have this funnel and you have, interest up here. So people doing Google searches, people on social media. Then you have people who call your business or schedule a demo. Then you have people who actually buy from you and actually turn into a customer, right? So that's all businesses are set up this way. So when you are a marketing agency, if all you're doing is creating interest up here, which might be great, it may or may not turn into a customer down the funnel, right? Now, if you don't turn it in, let's say you're doing the marketing up here and let's use video editing as an example. You're making all these videos and the videos are great. They're killing. They're getting millions of views. And the company is now going through a recession and they're like, oh man, I really got to buckle down and get more demos. They're probably going to say, you know what, those videos aren't getting us demos. How can we get more demos? And they're going to try to find something that's a little bit further down in funnel. So as a marketing agency, one way you can ensure that you always stick around is get closer to the money, meaning you move down funnel. That doesn't mean you don't create the videos. It means that you figure out what the next step is after the videos are created that is going to lead to a scheduled demo or a scheduled appointment that leads to somebody eventually buying. And then at the end of the month, you want to be able to show, hey, you paid me $10,000 for my services, but I scheduled you 30 demos, and those 30 demos turned into $20,000 or $30,000 in MRR. Now all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we can't cut that. We have to have that right now. But if you're far away from the money, meaning you're only marketing top of funnel, more than likely during a recession you'll feel the pinch, and the business will feel the pinch first, and then they'll end up saying, hey, we need to do something different because I need something more bottom of funnel.
It's such a valuable piece of advice because I think what this has helped me do is get really clear that like whatever new offers I ever give, I want to be close to the money. I want to be able to say, we made you this much money, or we get you this amount of views from this view, this many people booked a demo from this demo, this many people closed. Like I want to be that close to the money. And that's what we're working on next at my company. But I'd love to give a little bit of advice because I'm living through it right now. So what are you doing if you're listening? Like, what do you do if you're listening to this right now and you're like, guys, that's great, but I can't be closer to the money. That's me, guys. So here's exactly what I'm doing, and this may or may not work for you as well. I kind of alluded to it when I was giving that example. But if you can't actually attribute revenue or new money from the work that you're doing, you have to niche. And this is what I did. This is what worked for me, right? So we niched down. We said, hey, we can't work with everybody, but we can work with this person because this specific person, this specific company, this specific show, in our case, doesn't churn even in the recession. They are still doing okay. And that is who we're able to help the most. When you figure that out and you cut everybody else out and you really trim the fat, which is what we did. Like I said, cut out all of our plans and packages except one offer for one person. All of a sudden, you're much more appealing in that, pool of deciding who to work with to that very specific person than that, they'd rather pick you than the agency that works with everybody, right? If you're the only agency that helps lawyers create short form videos on TikTok, specifically lawyers in the New York City area, the lawyer in the New York City areas would much rather work with you than the agency that works with lawyers, doctors, dentists, chiropractors that's national, right? Because you can do a better service and you're speaking more to them. So if you can't really get close to the bottom of funnel, get clear on who you're serving and start pivoting all of your messaging. Start pivoting all of your messaging to that specific person, and that will help you a ton. But hey, if you can get close to the bottom of funnel, which is what I'm working on as well, then to Gary's point, that will be like the end all be all. Because if you can take $1 from somebody and give them back 3, they'll never leave you.
Yeah, I totally agree. I know one of the things that I learned in business is that when people can figure out inside of their business how, like if you make a new dollar, someone makes a new dollar for their business, that dollar has to pass through all your infrastructure, and you only end up with a couple cents of profit left, right? Maybe 20 cents, 30 cents, whatever, right? But when you save a dollar, you learn how to cut cost, then that all goes to your bottom line. So if you learn to save a dollar, then it goes right to your bottom line and you get that whole dollar of profit. And so if you're already working with somebody and then you can get to the place where you're like, hey, look at how much value we're bringing you, they're less likely to leave you. They're going to go look for somewhere else to cut that dollar out. But you have to be able to articulate the value that you brought to them. And it has to be something tangible that they can see on their bottom line.
You got to consistently be able to show it to them. And I think that that's a whole other episode, because that's something that I think myself and a lot of other agency owners struggle with, how to actually communicate and demonstrate value and data properly to decrease churn and keep clients happy and to really get closer to the money.
We learned from that. I'll add this one thing. We actually learned from that. So when I used to be the account manager and the marketing manager for our company, we focused on total new patients. So all I cared about was, how many total new patients do you want? You want 100? Okay, great. How many did you have? 90? Okay, we need to get you 10 more. We shifted that because you can't really control that because they're also providing new patients. And we shifted it to leads and tracking their leads, but that didn't always correlate to results. Leads are not results. And so we pivoted away from it. It did increase our churn. And now we're going back to focusing on total new patients because it didn't work.
Yeah, so basically you're saying pick one overall metric and track it in every which way possible. Focus on that one metric for success and then align the clients you're getting with that success metric.
Yeah, new customer, like if you're going to go work with somebody and they want demos or they want new customers or new patients, whatever, then you just track that and you say, hey, we're just going to get you these. And then even further, how much money did you make off of those? If you can figure out what's valuable to them and which ones actually worked, then now you are going to build a marketing system that's actually going to get more of those kind of customers or patients or demos.
Hugely valuable, hugely valuable. To quickly recap all of this, if you want to grow and survive during a recession with your agency, number one, focus on marketing and sales. When everybody is cutting back, what do? You double down, spend more, invest more time, more cold outreach, more referral partnerships, just more. The second point, focus on retention. If you already have clients, the best thing you can do is keep them longer. Keep them longer. It'll make your product better. It'll overall help your team be more consistent, and that will inherently help you survive. But how do you do that? You got to get a better product. You got to get closer to the money. You got to show people, measure a success metric, show them exactly what value they're getting by doing business with you. And if you are sitting there thinking, well, Derek, Gary, I can't get close to the money, probably a little bit something like me, then your solution, or at least what's worked for me thus far, is niching down, getting clear on who we're serving, how we're serving them, and only speaking to that very specific person because they are more likely to do business with you even during a recession. That's it.
Yep. Great stuff, man.
Till next time.